It's really incredibly humble to be here today, and I really want to thank Oceana for this honor. And I'm sure there's a reason she put me between you and lunch, and I'm sure your gut microbes are yelling for food now. So I'm going to take you through a journey, how discoveries are really changing the way we think about ourselves as human. Think about this morning when you woke up. What did you see in the mirror? Well, for me, I saw an organism that is only 43% human. It's not because it's too early or I have not had my caffeine boost. It's because when you look at the facts, what you're going to see is each one of you here make up of 30 trillion human cells. But if you count the number of microbial cells, the ones that belongs to your bacteria, it's actually 39 trillion. So we are more microbes than we are human. But you must say, wait, we are in the 21st century. I don't care about the number of cells in my body. It's the DNA that surely counts. The figure is even more astonishing. You are made of 20,000 human genes, but there are 20 million DNA that belongs to your microbes. So essentially, the 1% of you that you inherit from your father or mother, the ones unfortunately you can't change easily, how you look, how tall you are, the beauty is the remaining 99% that belongs to your microbes are the ones that you can transform. And I'm going to show you how we can change this to transform your health. So the 99% of you sits inside the human gut. And there's no doubt that, for example, you might have heard, before you give a big talk, you have butterflies in the stomach. That's like me right now. Or a knot in your stomach before you go for an important job interview, before your kids have exam. This gut instinct, gut feelings, your sixth sense, science has begun to prove that it's real, it's true. So the real threat occurs when this gut microbiome is imbalanced. There are too many bad bugs and too little of the good guts. And the threat really comes to all different diseases we can now think of, from deadly conditions like cancer to the epidemic of obesity and even mental illness, dementia, chronic pain, skin allergies, eczema. You know many people around you who have some of these, and even COVID-19 are now related, we know, in part to abnormal gut microbiome. So it's now on the tip of everyone's tongue. TV talk shows are talking about it. Netflix just featured it recently about hacking your gut. It's crept into the headlines of The Economist, and also even in the Wall Street Journal about how you can change your diet to protect your own gut microbiome. But I think what's interesting is that early on, Vivian was asked, why do you do what you do? We don't take enough time to really reflect on what makes us who we are today and why we do what we did. This is a very old family photo. This is my grandfather. My great-grandfather migrated from a little city in China to Penang, Malaysia. When my grandfather was 12 years old, his father died. So he worked as a shopkeeper and made $3 a month. He saved $50 for himself. The remaining he gave to his mother to bring up the siblings. When he was 20, he married my grandmother. They had 7 children, 6 boys, 1 girl. That 1 girl is my mother. During those times, education is focused on the men. So my mother never had the education of higher education. And she had this dream that one day she will provide to her children what she never did get. My grandfather opened an antique shop, and even up to the age of 80, he was guarding the shop. He used to tell a story that during the Second World War, he would take his bicycle with the children behind them to hide out. Even when the alarm siren rings and it's safe to come back, that they will bring the children back here. They lived to a good age of 80-something and passed away sadly a couple of years ago. And this was their wedding 60th anniversary featured in the local newspaper. And I think what I've learned is that my grandfather taught me that if you're loving, if you're kind, you respect others, and you follow your passion, there's really nothing you cannot achieve in life. And I think this core value I still hold to date. In contrast, this was me as a baby, not too long ago. But as you can see, like any other babies, I was a dreamer. I used to run into the seaside, and the one thing I love doing is to do stargazing, watch the stars. And this will resonate a little bit with what I do now. You will see it later on. And by the time I finished kindergarten, my mother said I finished reading all these encyclopedias, and I am meant to be a leader and born for great things. But then, which mother wouldn't tell their child that, right? So I then embarked on a journey to a medical school in England because opportunities were scarce locally. And this is Elizabeth Blackwell. She was rejected by 29 colleges to study medicine in the United States before she was accepted to do medicine as the first woman at that time in St. Bartholomew's. And for me, I ended up in one of the oldest medical schools in England. And I just looked back and counted. It took me 13 years, 21 days, and 21 hours from the moment I stepped into medical school to become a true gastroenterology specialist now. This is the amount of commitment and time that was taken. I just wanted to be a doctor and see patients, but I had the opportunity to do a PhD. And this was me sitting in front of a machine thinking, there are young men and women who come to the hospital with diarrhea, with blood in the stool, with a chronic illness. Nobody knows what's going on. And I then found, well, the first thing is inside the gut is the immune cell. But what's most important is the gut bacteria that the immune cells is trying to capture, like Pac-Man when you're playing that. If you get the good bacteria, boom, as you can see, you might have a proper immune system and your health is actually maintained. But in contrast, this may not always be the case. I had a PhD from Imperial College. I thought I wanted to settle in England for good. But as in Tom Hanks in my famous movie, which I like, Forrest Gump, Mama always said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. I met a man who then became my husband currently, and a mentor who was the Vice Chancellor of the Chinese Museum of Hong Kong, and ended up in this beautiful country, I know city I call home, and also home to my children. And this journey, however, was not a walk in the park. In 2010, I came as a one-man band because nobody believes in the gut microbiome. That was 14 years ago. Everyone was still talking about the human DNA. What is the microbiome? Nobody had actually heard about it. It took years to convince people. Then one day, I heard this professor talking in California. He said, 100 billion stars in the Milky Way, 40 trillion microbes in our body, and each one of them are yet to be discovered. So this is where my childhood dream was a dreamer, to look at the stars. So the microbes are just like basically the stars, and if we can uncover their power, we may be able to help human health. So I started this journey of looking at each of the Da Vinci Code of this bacteria to try to understand how they can actually transform our health to keep us well and to keep us sane. So I called this the renewed love with the small and the mighty. They are invisible. You can't see them. They're inside your gut. But trust me, they do something truly important. So this is the thing. We all regard our brain as the most important organ in our body. I'm sure all of you do, right? But what if I tell you there's yet another organ that is as heavy as your brain, but is equally, or if not more important than your gut? Don't you want to know more about it? I see quite a lot of nods in there. It turns out we do have, and these are all the microbes. Now I'm showing you inside your gut swimming, doing something, helping with your immunity. You may not just know it yet. So you might sprain an ankle, you might have a headache from a hangover, and you take a Tylenol or Panadol. How well this drug works, or even if you get side effects from it, depends on your microbes. If you're a fruit fly, who you determines to have sex with also depends on microbes. We haven't shown this in human yet, but it's probably just a matter of time. two twins, identical, both similar DNA, one obese and one slim. Why? Because they have different microbes as well, and we now know we can combat obesity by looking into this. So you are what you eat. What do you want to be, a hamburger figure or the slim broccoli? Really, what you feed your microbes really now also determines your gut health as well. And this is very, very important. Now, these are the things that are in our diet every day: colors, preservative, and they really, really destroy your gut microbiome. So do look out for them. My favorite food that my children always get every day. So I get asked, what's the first basic principles to look after your gut microbes? I call them the triad of evil. Unnecessary antibiotics. If it's absolutely necessary, fine. But you don't get a cold and a flu, and then you just get over-the-counter antibiotics that wipe out the bad bugs, but also the good bugs as well. Emulsifiers, non-sugar sweeteners, everything in the zero sugary drinks that you drink, you think it might replace it with non-sugar, but they are the sweeteners. And science have shown they actually harm the gut microbes as well. But is there something else we can harness to make it better? We've been working from stew to probiotics to live biotherapeutics. And this is what happens in 2013. Something rocked the world. A new treatment called fecal transplant, taking the feces from someone healthy and transplanting it to someone who have a deadly condition with an infection in the gut, cause them to have diarrhea and blood in the stool. In fact, this originated from our ancestor in mainland China. 2,000 years ago, Lei Xizhan has documented that they use Wang Long Tong. Guess what it is? Poop soup. It's golden dragon soup that they make to treat food poisoning when there were no antibiotics in those days, because it has the good stuff in it. So 5 years ago, a 70-year-old man came to me, desperate. He's been homebound for 3 years with blood in the stool with this nasty infection, and nothing works for him. He has not left his home. So what he did was he got a blender. The son became the donor of the stool, and this is what I did: blend the good stuff. I'm sorry if you look at Frappuccino in a different way again after this talk, or your children will never have it again. But we then took this stool, we call it transplant, using an endoscopy. It's not surgery, it's not an open surgery, it's just through an endoscope into this man. For as long as I have been in medicine, I see a lot of frowns there. It's a miracle. I've never seen anything work in 6 hours. This man stopped having diarrhea, his blood disappeared, he could go out, and he's a poet, so he writes books. So he wrote to me, 10年變血一變搞掂, 10 years of blood in the stool. Now with one stool transplant, I'm completely sorted. This is one thing that transforms someone's life, and I think it can be pretty rewarding. So in 2019, we were blessed to have the government support to open the Microbiota Innovation Center at Science Park, with the blessing of the Chief Executive, the CEO of the Science Park, to open a big powerhouse of R&D center to unleash what I call the potential of the microbes. But this is not the end, because I found a partner in crime who is the ex-dean of medicine at CUHK, and we thought one day what you just heard was just one patient. What I could treat is just one patient. What about all of you out there? What about your grandparents? What about the other people? Can they have access to some of these treatments? So we did something crazy. During coffee one day, we decided to do a business proposal to open our own company to think about how to unleash the microbiome. We wanted to turn this into something more edible. You may call it crab soup, but not such a nice name. I think we need to think a better name for it. The first pitching to the investor was, are you serious? You're asking people to eat SHIT? What is your business proposal here? So one door closes, you can see. Then another door opens. Because it was 2020, the pandemic arrived at that time, and everything else stopped. And I was one of the frontline staff at the Prince of Wales Hospital. We were seeing patients coming in and out with COVID. What puzzled me was, some could be so sick they end up in intensive care. Others just walking out of hospital saying, "Can I go home, doctor?" And then we realized something really extraordinary. There's something about the gut microbiome that determines if you get a virus or infection, whether you can fight it off. COVID-19 and the gut health has become completely interlinked. So we use big data, and we developed SIM01, a preparation that's homemade by the Chinese Museum of Hong Kong. And in 6 months, we were able to launch it in Hong Kong and now the other parts of Southeast Asia, basically showing it's tailor-made to the Asian gut, to people in this population, and it can help boost immunity. Not only that, we recently did a big clinical trial of 500 people and found it can help brain fog, hair loss, fatigue, some GI problems, and even musculoskeletal problems. So boosting your gut microbiome may help you combat many of these issues. So with the birth of Genibiome, we can rejuvenate your unique microbiome with science. But I guess the real question is, we are not only doing probiotics. Now we have a new technology with just one stool sample. What we can do is detect cancer before it appears. Everyone after the age of 40, we know that 1 in 3 of you here will have polyps. They are precancer lesions in the gut that can lead to colon cancer. If you don't do anything about this little benign thing, over 10 years, it becomes a cancer. Then 6 months ago, I was having lunch with a friend who had a child with autism as well as ADHD. We now know that the gut talks to the brain. So now, with saving a single stool sample from a child, this friend wished that she had known earlier, so she could do something to change her behavior so the child can go to a better school, a more appropriate school for the person. Now we can test with a stool, and it has a very high sensitivity to detect or predict if a child with neurodevelopment condition may develop autism or certain neurological problem. So this journey from clinician scientist to entrepreneurship is unexpected, but we're very lucky because now Genibiome, we've expanded, and I think what's most exciting is now we're given job opportunities to over 100 people who actually can work in different subsidiaries of Genibiome around the world now. And very honored that, with the help of a team, to get the Outstanding Female Entrepreneur Award last year by Deloitte. But I think, to me, this is only the beginning. We heard early on from Sherilyn telling us about mental health. We heard early on about how to deal with stress from Bastian. And I think this is where the money is, stress and mental health related to your gut microbiome. Because you may not know this, 70% of the happiness hormone that makes you happy, we call serotonin, is released by your gut microbiome. So if you can protect it, you can help them release, it may keep you happy. In fact, they talk to each other every day. They may be far apart, but they secrete things from the gut to the brain to control your mood. Not only that, if you want to be youthful and healthy, your gut microbiome even communicates with your skin now. And people are looking at the skin microbiome to remain youthful and be free from allergies, from eczema, from urticaria, from all these hives that affect people when they are stressed. So there are new pipelines thinking about how we can solve these unmet needs that are really affecting our society and our children as well. But to me, the holy grail is in longevity. Okay? Why we age? What if I tell you that the secret to a super long life lies in your microbiome? Maybe not long life only. Who wants to live long if it's not healthy? Super long, happy, healthy life. This is Hideka Arika. She's 101 years old. There are centenarians around the world now who can run a marathon, fit as a fiddle. And when we tap into their gut microbiome, it's extraordinary. They have the gut bacteria that prevent them from having illness. and they can still basically be as fit as a fiddle. So new research are thinking centenarians' gut microbiome are going to provide the clues to longevity. Do you know which country is ranked highest in life expectancies around the world? Any takers? Yes. Close. It's Hong Kong, Oceana. Japan is second now, but you're very close. You can see an average female's life expectancy is 88.17. Think about it, and man is 82, 2023. If we can live to that age with the whole community, I guess we want to be healthy at the age of 88 and still be here mingling with our friends from Prestige or Women in Power or doing what we love. So I think you are only hearing the beginning of this. Healthy gut is healthy aging. And watch out for the next 5 to 10 years. We're going to have certain things that can change your microbiome for that. But to me, I'm a dreamer, so this is not the end. Think about it. People bank cord blood. When I have my first child, I bank some cord blood in case my child has some genetic abnormality. People bank sperm, freeze their eggs for an insurance for the future. Why not the feces? People may laugh, think this is, but I just want to show you this is not science fiction because we are building a microbiome vault. We call it the Noah's Ark of the microbiome to preserve, basically before it gets polluted by the antibiotics, by all the westernized food, by the yummy, preserved, ultra-processed food that is in our daily living at the moment. Collect, preserve, and one day you could restore it to prevent you from a lot of different illnesses as well. For humanity, I like to call this. So the next time you are in the toilet doing a little dump, I call it data dump, before you flush it away, just think for a moment. This may be a one little sample that can just save your life one day from cancer or from any chronic illnesses. Just a bit of food for thought. But this is not science fiction. No one wants to deal with this yucky stuff. We're developing artificial intelligence designed smart toilet. Just like you wear an app, you wear an iPhone app, you wear different app to tell you how many steps you walk, how fast, how many calories you burn, what you should eat. Now, by a smart toilet, it can actually detect what's inside your gut, what you've eaten, and it may say, sir or Oceana, you're very healthy today. You can continue your Mediterranean diet, or you need to cut down on how much sugar. And I think this may change, actually, as we have new technology. It's not just science fiction. We're beginning to see all of that coming. And of course, you can even tailor it to your own, fantasy world of how you want it to make it a little bit more pleasant. So the road has been long, rewarding, but nonetheless, sometimes like a roller coaster. And I think I want to finish by leaving you with this favorite quote I like a lot. So when Albert Einstein went to Hollywood in 1931, it was said that the first person he wanted to meet was Charlie Chaplin. So Albert Einstein said to Charlie, "What I admire most about your art is your universality. You don't say a word, but the whole world understands you." And Charlie said back to Albert, "True, but your glory is even greater. The whole world admires you, even though they don't understand a word of what you say." What I wanted to say is sometimes what you do, at this juncture in time, no one may understand. They may not appreciate it. But I think it's important to believe in what you do, your passion, and probably just pursue it. I think when the time is right, it will appear. So humans are to Earth, as I would like to portray your microbiome, is to each one of your body. But I think last but not least, I was very lucky to get a view of this beautiful Swiss, Lake of Charlie watching at the fork. And I must encourage people who want a sabbatical to actually visit this place. It will really rejuvenate your microbiome, I'm sure. But I think I started by saying gratitude is very important. Without that single education that my parents gave me, I wouldn't be where I am here today. We must not forget who made us, who we are, and how we get here. And savor the moment. I have 2 little monkeys, guinea pigs. I use them as guinea pigs for my experiments sometimes. But in the light of lightning, I just sent my daughter to boarding school in the UK yesterday. I just arrived from London last night. And they grow up too fast. I used to look after the gut microbiome. Now she's on her own in the West looking after her own gut microbiome. I really want to thank every single unsung heroes behind the scene, all my students. You can see 80% are females, so we have hope. But nonetheless, it's really important to nurture the next generation. And before I finish, trust your gut and feed them well. Thank you very much.